Hello again, everyone. Edwin Leonard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about transit Venus making a square, opposition, or inconjunct aspect to one's natal Chiron. Now, when you're talking about transits that involve Venus, it could be about love, enjoyment, money, possessions, resources, values, self-worth, self-esteem, how one feels about oneself. And when you're talking about transit Venus basically making an adverse aspect to natal Chiron, I'm going to elaborate on that. When I say basically adverse aspect, well, the thing is, of course, squares and oppositions are adverse aspects in astrology, but um, inconjuncts could be seen as neutral. But when you have an inconjunct aspect, it involves often an adjustment, it's a transition, which can be tension filled, can be exasperating. So when you're talking about these aspects collectively, I would say it's basically an adverse aspect we're talking about. Now, the thing is, when you have this transit of Venus, making square opposition or inconjunct to the natal Chiron, well, it could manifest in love, enjoyment, money, possessions, resources, values, your self-worth, your self-esteem, how you feel about yourself. This might conflict with your own physical and emotional wounds and suffering you may be going through and enduring at this time. It could be where I know there's some things like psychosomatic type problems, or there's something where people have they could be going through you know thinking maybe negatively might exacerbate maybe their own, or worrying might exacerbate a physical condition. Well, it could be a negative feeling of your own self-worth. Perhaps it's exacerbating a physical wound at this time, physical suffering. Maybe it's adding or contributing to emotional suffering at this time. If Leo is involved, if Chiron is Leo, might be a deflated or depleted ego in some cases. Um, Keep in mind, these transits don't last very long. You get them frequently, though, during the year. They last a little bit longer than the transits of the moon. The transit of the moon, on average, is going to last about 10 hours, and this lasts in days, but it's not, it doesn't really, the duration is not that long. So the positive, even though it's a negative and adverse aspect, the positive thing, you won't be enduring, this for too long a time. But the thing about this is, though, I mean, Chiron is connected, with our ineptitude, at least where we feel inept at. And it might be we might not want it to maybe Venus is connected with our love and enjoyment, and it might find it less enjoyable at this time to have to deal with something that we're inept in, or we at least feel ineptitude in. I mean, if Chiron is in Gemini, it could be intellectual ability or ability to process or assimilate information, versatility, being able to diversify. It can be, or doing things with the hands, dexterity. If you're somebody has your natal Chiron Gemini, you're all thumbs, when it comes to trying to do things with the hands, whether it's mechanically or what have you. It can be a situation where you might be feeling worse about this, and you find even if you're thinking about it, it might find it a little bit less enjoyable, more so than usual. And if you're trying to obtain money or funds to deal with these issues, it can be something where it might be harder to come by at this time. Now, Chiron is also connected with our deepest wound, our deepest pain that we have to feel or endure. And the self-worth, the self-esteem, which is connected with Venus, it might even be worse at this time due to this deepest wound that you might be having to experience. It could be issues with a relationship, which could be a significant other, a marriage partner, an important friendship, might be doing something to make you feeling worse and cause more of a make the wound feel maybe even deeper than it is to begin with. I have my natal Chiron in Aries in my 12th house in my natal chart, so I think a lot of that the suffering I go through is the difficulties maybe in being showing maybe the courage and fortitude to confront hidden adversaries, people that might be impersonating friends in my life, or there could be some issues with difficulties or lack of initiative or enterprise that might be tied into my secret sorrows and self undoing. And when I have this transit, it could be somebody like an important friendship even might be, whether they might be saying something or might be doing something that might be making me reflect on this more, or causing that emotional suffering to be even worse in that matter. And but anyway, the thing about this too is it could also mean Chiron on the positive side can be connected with healing and helping others. Remember that Chiron is the wounded healer. It could reflect ways that we could help help others out, and where we're inept in helping ourselves. But the thing about it is, it could be situations, a monetary situation. It could be a relationship. It may be, it could be how we feel about ourselves at this time. In some isolated cases, it could even be going through some legal matter or lawsuit. Venus is connected with legalities and lawsuits. We might be going through something Venus related that might be challenging our own ability to help and heal others. And also, too, it's interesting that Chiron is connected with depleted or diminished self-worth or self-esteem, and Venus is associated with that. So at this time, you're having two energies where you have the Venus is about our self-worth and self-esteem, and Chiron is diminished self-esteem. This could be a situation, I think, where you could have, it could be a very trying period for issues with how you feel about yourself at this point in time. And because it is an adverse aspect, and both these energies are connected with how you feel about yourself, and it might be harder to value really your own what your own worth at this time might be. Matters with diminished self-esteem. It could be where at this time where you might be having really negative, it could be again the self-worth issues, and it's harder to value anything maybe something positive about yourself, because Venus is about values. And Chiron can be depleted self-esteem, so it's really hard to value and maybe things that are maybe positive in your life and yourself at this point in time. So the thing is, and because it's hard to do that if you are going through something with diminished self-worth or self-esteem. But anyway, the thing about this too is that, keep in mind, this is also about general weakness at this time. And the thing about it is, it can be where a relationship or significant friendship might be an area in life where we just feel at this time where there's weakness, where we're inept at this point in time. It can be issues anatomically that are connected with Venus, such as the throat, the neck, the kidneys, thyroid, lower back, which might be causing more suffering at this time, more so than usual. Another thing is that you might not really love or be enamored with helping and healing others at this time. Reiterating what I believe I said previously. Say if the natal Chiron is in Scorpio in the 8th house, as an example, it could be deep, which is Scorpio, psychological, which is the 8th house issues at this time. Relationships at this time might wind up conflicting with you trying to deal or cope with a physical or an emotional issue at this time, or suffering. Say, for example, if the Chiron is in Chiron is in Virgo, it might be something physically with the spleen or the pancreas, or some intestinal difficulty or emotional level. It might be something connected with worrying, apprehension. Maybe there's feelings of ineptitude, lack of ability to organize or be punctilious with details at this time, or inability. Maybe something connected with hygiene or cleaning at this time. Might be something where you feel like there's some inept at this time. And the thing about it is, And it could be a situation, and you might be in relationships might be challenging your ability to either to deal with this situation, this ineptitude, or it could be that maybe they're doing things to make it worse somehow. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that. I'm back. But anyway, and also too, another way this transit may manifest, it could be difficulty in finding the enjoyment, maybe in alleviating others that are going through suffering. Say if the natal Chiron is in Sagittarius and the second house is an example, it could be something where, if you're trying to encourage others through, or you're trying to ameliorate somebody's should say, I'm sorry, if you're trying to ameliorate others somehow with their self-esteem, or which is second house, it could be through, encouraging them to go outdoors or expand horizons, something with sports, and that could be done to encourage, really ameliorate others' self-esteem and self-worth, which is the second house. It may be something that maybe you've done in the past to help others alleviate their suffering, but you may not feel like doing it yourself, whether you're going through some, emotional situation, or, or could be some suffering that you might, be going through. You might be having difficulty finding enjoyment in this at this time. And sometimes too, I think this could also manifest in having more difficulties and in having being harder to ascertain the cost, which is connected with Venus, the cost and value of things, with some kind of trauma or physical injury. Say if the natal Chiron is in Gemini, as an example, it could be some physical situation with the arms, the hands, or the lungs, something with breathing or the nerves. It could be like something with carpal tunnel syndrome, as some example. And It could also be in situations too. It could be isolated. There might be some situation with a lawsuit or a legal matter that might be exacerbating some kind of emotional suffering at this time, and maybe even too physical. Because I do believe worrying sometimes can maybe do something with physical issues. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Leonard saying, stay well.